Animals.
Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to another Shamshir Sound video. My name is Ali Nadem. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I remade the sub kick from Martin Garrix's Animals track. And this is an older track. I think it's like 6 years old, but it's a classic track. And one of you guys requested it, so thank you for the comments. Keep them comments and requests coming. And apologize guys for the delay. I haven't uploaded in a bit, but I got some great stuff lined up, some more juicy stuff. And I'm going to be giving away these kicks as well. So if you guys want to download these kicks, check the video description. I have it in F, C sharp, and D sharp as well. And you can download the wave and just use that. So today I'm going to show you guys how I remade that kick. And I really hope you guys liked that intro. Essentially with this kick, it's like a 3-step process. The most important thing is the sub. And you also have a punch and like an optional top kick or like a clap or something. So this right here is Martin Garrix's original kick. And you can see there, it's a really fat kick. I mean, it doesn't even stop towards the end. It's very long. The first thing was I discovered the key. I believe the key is in F. And once you know the key, once you know the BPM you're working in, you're going to want to go ahead and then take the next step. So here I was looking at the waveform. I'm like, okay, it looks like it's a bit distorted. Taking a good look visually and hearing it, of course, because with drums, it's very surgical. You have to be very precise. So I had to listen to this. So that's Garrix's normal kick. Now, it's rare where you actually find an isolated kick. However, Martin Garrix did that right at the beginning of the drop. Right before the fill, a fat kick, and then the plucks start playing. Now, if you can find tracks like this where the kick is just clean, go ahead and do that. Like, go ahead and just sample the kick if you want. But what we're doing today and what we're explaining today is a bit more sophisticated, because then you'll be able to do that cool switch up that I did where you can play different notes, you can customize your sub bass. And though I didn't get it 100%, it's really going to be hard because we can't go in Martin Garrix's brain. You know, I watched the Future Mag video, the interview, like a breakdown of his track, and on YouTube, and like, you know, it's to the point where if you remake something, it's okay if it's better or worse. It doesn't have to be super identical. Like, it's very hard to get it super close. So I'm happy with the results though. It's generally pretty good. I wanted to use my own punch, but I was really dissatisfied with using the top kicks and creating punch. But the first thing I started with was my sub. So this is the sub kick. I designed it in massive, and I have some fruity balance on there doing some side chain. So let's turn that off. So even on its own, this kick is sounding pretty juicy. All that really needs is like a little top kick, a little bit of punch. And so here I started with sine. The sine wave is very clean, and I was looking at his waveform inside of span and whatnot, and the sine seemed the best to get close to his results. So I used sine and -24. I added another sine -12, but amplitude only around like 40 or 50. This is at 42, just to give a little bit more harmonics. Oscillator 3 is not being used, so that could still be turned off. It's at 0. No modulation here. I did experiment with it though. I did experiment with filter FM and phase, but I liked it just with that sine. A little bit of brightness here, and this brightness is just giving it a little bit of air. And that air can help with a little bit of grit, a little bit of crushiness, a little bit of kind of initial transient kick, clap thing kind of. The filter that I chose was the Low Pass 4. It's a very nice deep filter. I did experiment with Scream and Daft. I probably could have used Daft, but Low Pass is what I did. And filter 2 is just being used for the noise, and it also affects the feedback because the feedback is really giving it some body. You can see how important that feedback is right there. It's really pushing it forward. And I noticed when I was trying to get my kick sounding like his, I was cycling through different distortions, and the parabolic shaper seemed like the best. I did try Clipper, and Clipper was also kind of second best, but everything else really didn't suit the sound. Sine shaper was really bad. Check this out. Or hard Clipper. That was not the best. When I used these two in conjunction with each other, the parabolic shaper and the feedback worked really nicely. Also gave it a little bit of this Bronner tube distortion. So that Bronner tube, a little bit of EQ, boosting a little bit of the low and the high. No reverb, nothing there. And essentially the voicing, very simple, monophonic, of course. And all of these, I hit trigger 0 reset. I wanted it to just trigger each time the kick plays in the piano roll. And the envelope for envelope 4 is just something very simple, no attack, and just kind of like this simple decay, simple level, just to give it punch. And that's how you can do a little bit of punch. You don't want the level all the way up. You want the level a bit down, so you have some impact, and it goes down. The key, the secret sauce also with this sub, as well as anything else drum-wise that you guys make inside of a Massive, is that you need to make sure that you're using your pitch automation, because without it, and with it, you see that? Punch and no punch. Punch, no punch. And that's all being done by automating 2 octaves with envelope 1. So we're doing 24, 24, 24. So these are all doing 24. And I also wanted to do, like with his kick, it's more of like playing one note, ba, 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 but I kind of wanted to do a little bit of like tape stop effect, a little bit of pitch modulation to go downwards. And Show Tech and a lot of guys talk about how important that is to make your drums really have movement more and more color, and it sounds nicer, it has more movement. So I used Performer 12 for that, Performer 7, and Performer 7 is doing -12, giving this effect. So with, see how cool that is? See how that makes a drastic difference, right? And we're using that same thing on the resonance, which is weird, but what it's doing is that as the pitch goes down, as it comes to the end of the kick, the resonance opens up, delivering a bit more harmonics as well. And same thing is going with the cutoff. The cutoff filter here is being automated by 2 and 3. Without the cutoffs, they're just too bright, and the cutoffs help to shape it, just like the pitch envelope that we have. And this last one here, 8, is just opening it up slightly again. Without, it's just so subtle. It's like barely doing anything, but sometimes those barely doing anythings can just really add up towards the end. So that's really it with this kick. Nothing crazy here. This is the sub kick. And with that sub kick, what I was doing here was that I'm basically automating the fruity balance. So the important one is this one. Basically doing like a side chain. I tried Kickstart Extreme Short. I tried LFO Tool. LFO Tool worked well because I needed to really craft it a specific way. And when I need to do that, I just use Fruity Balance. I just draw it in. And here I did like so, a little curve there, and then going back down. And this created a lot of space for the punch kick, which we will talk about shortly. In terms of the processing and how it's laid out in the mixer, is that I'm going to go ahead and turn off all these effects and just listen to the sub kick. So this is the sub kick on its own from Massive. There we go. So it's actually really lacking. So really what I first put on was Camel Crusher. I really wanted to drive it, and that's doing some compression and the filter there. I really wanted to put a little bit more warmth, so I added FabFilter Saturn. And just played around with the EQ. The treble is helping, giving it a little bit of a slap. So check this out. Without, it's completely different. So you got to find that sweet spot, what you like. And then I added the Fruity Balance to just do some automation. So basically I took that kick, took the top kick, combined them into one bus before going to the final master. And I'm going to show you guys what I did for the punch. For the punch right here, this is the 2 parts to the punch. There is this kind of really wide reverb trail, and then there is this very center punch kick. So let's take a look at this. And we'll play back with the processing on. So this is really wide. Doesn't sound great on its own, but it's a part of his kick. So what I did was that I listened to his kick, and I threw on a plugin called Voxengo MSED. And what this does is it allows you to look at the side only. So here is Martin Garrix's kick. Right, that's just the side. If we listen to just the mid, he has a lot of power in the mid, and the side is almost nothing. It's just a little bit of like a clap trail, but I wanted that. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to sample it in Edison. And then I did the same thing with just the mid. So once I sampled the side and the mid, I was left with this, the side and the mid. So once I got this, the center and the wide one, I combined them and I used careful leveling and careful fading out. So they're both using a smooth declicking mode, and this helps to fade into the sub kick, because I wanted the sub kick not like his kick is hard to explain, but it's like a punch and then the sub kick comes in. It's like whoa, 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 almost like a hard style kind of thing, but not that drastic. They need to kind of fade into one another. They're layered well. And so in order to simulate it, I had to make sure that these fade out. Otherwise, if I play the whole thing, it's going to stack on top of my sub, and we don't want that, two subs fighting for space. And so when I did it this way, it worked pretty well. I had to fine tune it, find that sweet spot, and I was like, okay, that's the good spot right there. And I closed this one a bit too, making it just a bit tighter. And when we look at the level, so this one's brought down a bit in volume. This one too, like minus just a couple dB or something there. And that's essentially it. They're both being routed to this guy here, track number 3, which has this. So let's play this back. So this is the punch for the sub. And when we play it back with the sub, sometimes because of MIDI, the note might trigger incorrectly. That's why I bounced it. So when you have situations like this, it's probably best for your kick to you bounce just that part of the kick, so you can just repeat it, because you want things to be consistent with drums. And without this FabFilter Saturn, it kind of loses a bit of body. That's why I added the Saturn. I wanted a little bit more warmth, and I used the warm tape. So this is without the warm tape. Here's with the warm tape. It's subtle, but there is a difference there. I played with the dynamics, and this mode is doing a good job to increase a bit of body, a bit of thickness to the sound. And then ultimately, I routed those all to the same one, and Supercharger and SSL Comp I did afterwards, but I used something crazy here I never done before, which was this Pro Q3 doing like a match EQ. So I used his kick as a reference, and then I applied matching to my kick. And though this EQ looks crazy, it's like, what the hell am I doing? I just did it anyways, and it sounded good. So sometimes you do something crazy, and it's like, dude, what? But it worked well. So this is without it. This is with. And so it's a subtle difference. It's hard to tell, especially through YouTube and the distortion and the MIDI triggering. However, it did a good job. I did put Supercharger GT on here just to give a little bit more warmth. Supercharger GT is not doing anything with the saturation, the compression, nor the fatness here, the character. Just a 50-50 dry wet. And this is just giving a little bit of character. When it was put to the hot, check this out. And this is on. It gives it a bit more presence, if that makes sense. It gives it a bit more presence. And SSL Comp was moved to the beginning of this bus chain. And a ratio of 2, threshold all the way up. Makeup gain is at 0.9. This is just helping to give a bit of punch, and it's not hurting the initial punch because it has 30 ms attack before it gets activated with a very quick release. And so this is just giving a little bit of a punch, but it's so subtle. Finally, Camel Crusher keeps the signal limited at 0 dB. And we have the filter, so it'll roll off towards 16 kilohertz with a little bit of this mech distortion. just really helps to drive the sound a bit more, and the result is pretty good. I was very happy with the result. It did take a bit of time, especially the sub kick was probably the most time demanding, but the beauty is that you now get the ability to switch up. And though there's a beauty in taking the original kick and playing around with it or just using it as is, the beauty is that then you can go in and play different notes and do something cool, how I call the switch up. And you go down to what I have here, going down to C sharp, or then going up to D sharp, and then you get that cool stuff. So essentially, this punch and this wide trail and that sub make up this kick remake up here. And then when we play this back, so I'm going to mute his kick. This is essentially, I took a part of his track and I sidechained it because for my demonstration, I want to be able to have something that plays with the kick. I can't play his original track without being EQ'd. So I EQ'd his track around here, you can see. And then I put on Camel Crusher just to keep the level in check. And I put a light sidechain so that it plays well with my kick. And the result was something like this. So really sick. And we got it, like, I looked at this after the fact and I'm like, oh wow, it's not that different. I mean, these subtle little rises and falls here could be perhaps more distortion. Maybe one of you guys could educate me on that, or if you guys know any extra tips on what he did there. But I'm pretty happy with it. I wanted to start doing it with, like, let me do my own punch and do this, and then I'm like, hold on, let me, try doing this, and the result's pretty good, because now we have our own sub kick, we have our own kick punch, and you have a bit more control in terms of what you want to do with melodies. If we all of a sudden want to go up to A and then all the way down to D, we can do so, and it's going to be much easier than using this guy here. So really simple. I hope you guys really like this, and thank you so much to the guy who requested this. Keep those comments coming if you guys have any requests for tutorials for remakes. Remember guys to smash the like button. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe and hit that notification bell, because I'm giving this away. You'll be able to download the kick in 3 different notes: F, C sharp, and D sharp, in 32-bit wave. So check that out in the video description. And thank you for watching this video, guys. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.